These leaked Loch Ness Monster sightings scientists tried to keep from the public will absolutely leave you speechless. Images taken by a photographer by the name of Chalice back in 2018 of what appears to be the Loch Ness Monster went absolutely viral and weren't actually meant to be seen. Chalice captured what looks like two humps of the mystery beast around 200 meters from the shore of Loch Ness while she was having lunch with her family on the 13th of August that year. Now, she kept the image hidden, fearing public ridicule from those who don't believe the monster exists. But after the biggest search for Nessie in more than 50 years took place, she decided to go public with it. She said in an interview she was taking pictures of her husband and daughter when she spotted it moving right to left at a steady speed in the background. She said, "It was spinning and rolling at times. We never saw a head or neck, and after a couple of minutes it just disappeared and we never saw it again." She continued to say, "At first I wondered if it was, an otter or a pair of otters or even a seal, but we never saw a head and it never came up again for air." While she wasn't able to, decipher the length of the creature, she said the two parts were less than 2 meters apart. Now, she showed it to full-time Nessie hunter Steve Feltham, who said basically his home for more than 30 years ago to live on the side of Loch Ness. He's been chasing down these mythical creatures for most of his life and says that there have been many disappointments in that time, but he described these photos as the best things he's seen from the surface of the water in 32 years. He said anybody that's ever looked at the evidence, that we have for the Loch Ness Monster would be justified in asking the question, how come all the evidence is either blurred, out of focus, grainy, or too far away to have any possibility of identifying it? He continued to say, well, the beauty of these latest photographs that Chalice has taken is that it is 15 photographs over 2 minutes. There's a sequence of pictures and there's a clear focused image in the middle that I can easily explain what it is. He finished off by saying the jury's out as to what it's going to turn out to be, but it's very exciting, definitely exciting. I'll admit, these are some of the best I've seen, but let me know what you guys think though. A new photo of the Loch Ness Monster could be the most compelling evidence yet. A photo of what appears to be a massive creature swimming in Scotland has sparked fresh debate on whether the Loch Ness Monster actually exists. Now, Steve Chalice said he took the photo while on holiday last year when he spotted ripples in the water. While many social media users believe the creature is the famous Loch Ness Monster, Chalice says he's not so convinced. Now, Steve from Southampton photographed a creature from the shore opposite of Urquhart Castle, which is on the banks of the Loch Ness, when on holiday in Scotland. Now, Steve said he saw a ripple in the water and assumed it was just a big fish that he estimated was about 8 feet long. Steve said in an interview that he thought it was a catfish and only posted the photo to see if people could help him actually identify the creature. He said, "In my opinion, and I'm no expert, I think it's a large fish that got into the loch from the sea. As to what it is, personally, I think it's a catfish or something like that, but a big one. But someone suggested it may be a sturgeon." Now, it's very large, but as you can see, it must be at least 8 feet long, and who can tell what amount is below the surface anyway? Now, the water is very dark in Loch Ness, so it's hard to tell. When he posted them, people kept commenting that the photos looked like the Loch Ness Monster. Steve said the photos are real, but that he genuinely thinks the photos have only captured just a big fish. What do you guys think though? Let me know. A Loch Ness Monster just may have been spotted on one man's camera. Monster hunters claim to have finally been given the proof needed, and people who've seen the footage are convinced it's Nessie. Now, one tourist named Tony Bly shot a video which reportedly shows mysterious humps emerging from the Scottish waters and actually posted on YouTube. Now, the curious footage has already racked up more than 22,000 views. The video was filmed from the Wellington lay-by on the A82 overlooking the famous Highlands Loch, but locals are dismissing the footage of the 5-humped figure as an optical illusion caused by waves left behind a passing boat. Now, Bly said in his statement, "While visiting Loch Ness, I noticed this weird formation on the loch near Iverness end of the loch. Now, could it be the elusive Nessie? It was quite long. The humps were consistently the same length apart. I don't know what it was. It was very unusual." Now, in the YouTube video, there appears to be 4 to 5 humps about 6 feet apart, which move in unison, but Bly did concede that there was a boat around, 1,200 feet away. This footage is pretty convincing, but let me know what you guys think of it. A mystery creature spotted by a boat captain leaves viewers guessing what it could be, but with many believing it may be Nessie, the elusive Loch Ness Monster. Now, this sighting had people saying alligator, whale, or Loch Ness Monster. A video of a dark creature swimming near the coast of southeastern North Carolina had viewers debating online about what it could possibly be. Charter boat captain Daniel Griffey captured the video, which was shared on the Chase and Tails Outdoors Bait and Tackle Facebook page, and since then the 43-second video has been seen over 500,000 times. The shop wrote, "Something you don't see every day. Whales or the Loch Ness Monster in the port this morning. Never seen one inside, like this." Now the clip shows the creature appearing to slither kind of through the waters inside the port of Morehead City and surfacing at times. Now some viewers claim it looks like an alligator when it kind of comes out of the water. One watcher said, "That's a gator, you can see the eyes are on top of its head," with another person saying, "Now that is strange, odd looking head for sure." Some people speculated that it's a manatee, but most people, well, they are thinking it's a Loch Ness Monster. Now, joking or not, who knows, but one person said, "Definitely a Loch Ness Monster. I saw two the same day I saw Bigfoot walking a black panther on a leash." Now, thankfully, Captain Griffey put the rumors to rest. He identified it as a right whale calf that got lost from its mother swimming around the port, but some people aren't so convinced. Now, Griffey wrote on Facebook saying, "Wasn't sure at first, thought it was a group of dolphins splashing around until it swam right beside the boat. I have a 22 Pathfinder, that's 9 inches wide, and it was bigger than my boat." Well, it sure is some good footage. Let me know what you guys think though. A mystery creature caught by Google Earth has people puzzled, intrigued, and wondering if it is the elusive Loch Ness Monster, and maybe it's finally been caught. Now, a giant mystery sea creature is thought to have been spotted in the turquoise waters of one of New Zealand's most idyllic bays. Now, a huge unexplained wake can be seen in a Google Earth image of Oak Bay. Now, in the Bay of Islands, an area on the east coast of the far north district of the country's North Island, captured by satellite, engineer Peter Watira, who spotted the wake while on Google Earth researching for his holiday home, told Daily Mail Australia that the wake could have been left by a creature around 12 meters in size. Now, Mr. Watera from Hamilton, New Zealand said the native Maori would call this a taniwa, which is a troll, as it appears not to be a whale and it is far too big to be a shark. It is moving too fast and turning too sharply to be a whale. Mr. Watera also ruled out that a boat was the cause of the wake because there was no, white froth like normal wakes created by motors. He said, "I spotted it about a week ago. We have some property near Oak Bay and I'm about to build a beach chalet up there. I zoomed down and found that." He continued to say it's way too wide, for a shark and way too long. It's got to have a lot of weight under the water to create that kind of drag. Oak Bay has a white sand beach and the water stays shallow for around 40 meters with a sudden deep drop into the bay, and many people took to social media to share their thoughts. One person pointed out that the shape and size are consistent with a Loch Ness Monster and said this might be the proof, we've all been waiting for. Now, another person chimed in saying, if it's not Nessie, then what is it?
A September 2024 video captured from a webcam at Erin Loch Bed and Breakfast on the Loch's north shore showed a large wake moving south across the water with what appears to be a hump near the front. Now, a self-proclaimed Nessie hunter spotted this and said, "There are obviously two creatures taking up residence in this area of the loch at the moment." He added, "There was a long object that looked bumpy on top of the water, moving through the loch with a strong wake against the current. In the middle of the object, a pale hump-like part of some creature can be seen rising up throughout the length of the video clip. I was so captivated by the sighting," they said. Now, Nessie is supposedly about 8 to 10 feet long on the surface, but has more body or strong fines underneath in order to churn the water up with such force, the Loch Ness hunter said. He was certain that these were the Loch Ness Monster and not any other type of animal. What type of creature has a reddish-brown hump in the middle of a bumpy length of body that can cause such disturbance and wake? It looked weird and strange, no resemblance to a seal or otter, he reasoned. No duck or bird could cause a wake like that with so much water disturbance. It might be heading back to hybrid giant eel territory, but it didn't move like an eel. I cannot really say it was any known animal, he said. So maybe this really is footage of the real Nessie. Now, it's been discovered that a drone captured footage of the elusive creature Nessie. A tourist paddling through Scotland's Loch Ness for a long-distance charity canoe trip may have inadvertently captured drone footage of the fabled Loch Ness Monster. "The last thing I want to do is make a Nessie claim," Richard Maver told the Post. "I'm the most skeptical of people, but watching this I think, yeah, there's something a bit strange here. It shows a long, thin form just beneath the water's surface." Now, while paddling in the water, the tourist set the drone out to film, and as the camera zoomed in, the outline of a creature nearly twice the length of the beached 14-foot-long watercraft appeared to approach the group while floating beneath the lake's rippling waves. And the shape captured by the camera bore an uncanny resemblance to a plesiosaur, a sea creature from the dinosaur-dominated Mosaic era that has long been associated with the elusive Nessie. Now, underwater footage could have just proved the existence of the Loch Ness Monster. The Loch Ness Center has finished a huge search of Loch Ness. It took place last month, on May 22nd to the 25th, and saw hundreds of budding monster hunters scour the 23-mile-long loch for unusual activity, both in person and online. Now, for the first time, remotely operated vehicles were used in an attempt to capture the first underwater image of the famous beast. Now, this was accompanied by baited camera traps fitted with GoPro cameras and lights placed in strategic locations to capture any signs of wildlife. Now, they found some fish and some mysterious shadows. Now, could that have been Nessie? In 2021, on August 26, Benjamin Scanlon was on a holiday with his family and took a trip on the Nessie Hunter of Loch Ness Cruises, trying to find the elusive creature. Now, he spotted something on the sonar on the boat and caught an image of something that looks like Nessie. Now, Captain Mike of the boat estimated the creature to be 3 to 4 meters in length at depths of about 20 meters, while the boat was in the water about 40 meters deep. So, is this the first sonar image of Nessie? I think so. A man spotted the Loch Ness Monster from his house through his webcam, so he made sure it was recording the elusive creature. Owen O'Feogan said he was left stunned by the sighting of the 20-foot monster in the Scottish Highlands and has even had his footage accepted by the official Loch Ness Monster Sightings Register. So yeah, people think this is the real deal. Now, at the time, he'd been watching the loch via webcam when he noticed a hump-like object at the right-hand side of the screen moving down the middle of the loch. He said at times it seemed to be higher out of the water and at times lower. It moved briskly with no visible wake, but the waters of the loch were not calm. "I thought it was a most unusual sight. It neither plowed through the water like a boat with an engine nor sailed through." He added, "I do not think the hump is a seal. Certainly it's not the behavior of one. I think it could be Nessie," after exhausting all other possibilities. Now, he believes that the hump was around a kilometer from the camera, and it's estimated to be approximately 10 feet long and standing about 4 feet out of the water. Now, if this was Nessie, she was huge. On November 12, 1933, a man named Hugh Gray snapped the first known photograph of a creature lurking in the Loch Ness, aka the Loch Ness Monster. Now, he had taken his Labrador for a walk that day, and it is suspected that the photograph depicts his dog fetching a stick from the loch. But others have suggested that the photograph depicts an otter or a swan, and the original negative was lost, but this photo is one of the most famous pieces of proof that Nessie exists. The Dinsdale film from 1960 is another piece of proof that the Loch Ness Monster is real. Tim Dinsdale filmed what he believed to be a dark hump that left a wake crossing Loch Ness on April 23, 1960. He described it as mahogany red with a blotch on its side when viewed through binoculars. He said that when he mounted his camera, the object began to move, and he shot 40 feet of film. Now, after the film, Dinsdale continued to pursue finding the Loch Ness Monster, but while he claimed to have had additional sightings, he was unable to produce more photographic evidence. Now, in 1993, Discovery Communications produced a documentary, Loch Ness Discovered, with a digital enhancement of the Dinsdale film. A person who enhanced the film noticed a shadow in the negative that was not obvious in the developed film. Now, by enhancing the overlaying frames, he found what appeared to be the rear body of a creature underwater. "Before I saw the film, I thought the Loch Ness Monster was a load of rubbish. Having done the enhancement, I'm not too sure," they said. Ian Bremmer was driving through the Highlands in search of deer to photograph when he came across a creature that resembled the infamous Nessie surfacing from the calm waters of Loch Ness. Now, he didn't notice the image of the 3 lumps peeking out from underwater until he got back to his home, and the image shows a serpent-like silver-brown creature swimming away from the camera. The front, middle, and back parts of the 2-meter monster emerged from the water as curved humps. I'd normally be a bit of a skeptic when it comes to Nessie, and I think it's just something for the tourists, but I'm starting to think there's something out there, the 58-year-old said to the Scotsman. When I saw it on my screen, I said, what the hell is that? If you're fishing there, it's sort of the place where you can get a tingle up your spine and second guess what you're seeing. Now, some of Bremmer's friends have suggested that the image is actually of 3 seals playing. I suppose it could be seals, but I'm not sure, he said. The more I think about it, the more I think it could be Nessie.
Coming in at number 5, we've got an ancient appearance. Most folks seem to think that tales of Nessie started showing up at the turn of the 20th century, with personal photography being more common than ever before, and cameras ending up in the hands of more individuals. It was possible to snap a few shots of the aquatic entity. Most of these pictures have been debunked at this point, but we'll get to that later. The thing is though, accounts of the Loch Ness Monster go way back. Like, seriously far back through history. Back before photography or the printing press or even common writing. That's right, people were discussing the Loch Ness Monster back in the age of cave drawings and stone carvings. Apparently folks had found depictions of a strange, flippered, dinosaur-like creature among the carvings by the Pict, an ancient people thought to have lived in what's now eastern and northeastern Scotland. The Picts were first noticed in 297 AD, which puts the origin of this legend way earlier than people usually assume. Then a few hundred years later, we have the first written account of Nessie. A monster that bit swimmers in the water was mentioned in St. Columba's biography. Don't worry though, Columba told it to go back and Nessie listened. What a lovely Loch Ness Monster, right? After being banished by St. Columba, Nessie only made occasional appearances over the years. This only added to the legendary status of the beast, however, as many people would discuss it over the years. Who would have thought that scarcity would make something more interesting and valuable to people? Limited edition Loch Ness Monster signings signed me and the rest of the internet up. Wild how a creature first dreamed up so many years ago can have such a vice grip on the popular conscience. Coming in number 4, we've got the surgeon's photo. This is where things get really wild concerning the Loch Ness Monster, and by wild I mean mostly popular. Every story has a big turning point, and this is probably it for Nessie. If we relied strictly on Pictish stories of an ancient aquatic beast, I doubt it would be the force it is today. So instead we look at a photograph snapped by a surgeon, thus the surgeon's photo. In the 1930s, a new road was finished right by the famous Loch Ness, which provided a new unobstructed view of the body of water. Many people journeyed out to bask in the splendor of such a sight, and in doing so opened the proverbial floodgates to new experiences. In 1933, someone spotted an enormous beast in the water and the legend was reborn. Confirmation is difficult when it comes to stuff like this, so different stories began to fly around. We're talking about hypothetical hippopotamus sightings here, folks. In fact, a big game hunter was hired to figure out just what was going on. He discovered some large footprints along the shore that seemed to belong to a powerful soft-footed animal. This was, like most information regarding Nessie, proven to be a hoax though. However, what really galvanized the tale was the photograph mentioned in the subtitle. In 1934, Robert Kenneth Wilson managed to produce a photograph seemingly depicting the head and neck of Nessie popping out of the water. When the Daily Mail printed the picture, popularity exploded. People wanted to see this with their own 2 eyes and flocked to Loch Ness to see if they could catch a glimpse. Some even speculated that this was a plesiosaur, long believed to have gone extinct. What a time to be alive, am I right? Well, this photo has undergone intense scrutiny as well, inspiring plenty of skeptics to do their best debunking it. However, no matter how many people point out potential forgeries in the photo, its impact remains unchanged. This photograph cemented Nessie as a bona fide urban legend and creature of renown, and for years after it was taken, it would enthrall creature enthusiasts and whimsical minds alike. Coming in number 3, In Search Of. If you search, you can find. It's a pretty solid motto, don't you think? And with that in mind, take a look at what these guys found while investigating Loch Ness. It's pretty wild to think that a modern camera crew can just decide to head out on the water and find something, but hey, you can't really tell what they found exactly, but any sort of unexplainable occurrence in Loch Ness will be chalked up to some enormous long-necked beast. See, the crew went out with the intent to sight the beautiful monster and did everything in their power to catch that glimpse. First, something pinged on their radar, alerting them to a huge moving presence beneath the surface. This was the diving crew's signal to hop into the water and give it a look, which, by the way, is a bonkers thing to do. Imagine your boss claiming that there was a huge monster in the water and then telling you to hop in. Hilarious. The divers brought with them an underwater camera rig, but soon the light was pretty dim. Suddenly something moved in the water nearby, knocking the camera off its axis and kicking up all sorts of muck and mire. No clear shots ended up in the footage, but the fact that something like that happened is fascinating. So what do you think? Was it Nessie? Something else, perhaps? Adding to the legend of Loch Ness for sure. Coming in number 2, we've got the Beast of Loch Ness. Over the years, many folks have claimed to see the legendary creature. In fact, documentarians have done their best to immortalize a lot of the accounts. At one point, a Nova film called The Beast of Loch Ness was created, jam-packed with first-hand tales of Nessie. Ian Cameron, a retired superintendent of the Northern Police Force, was out fishing with a friend when he saw the monster. About 200 yards from where he was standing, something huge and whale-like seemed to breach the surface. He looked to his friend, who was equally confused and enthralled. Since then, they've claimed that the sighting was real, although they know they can't convince anyone without them seeing it with their own 2 eyes. Then there's Val Moffat, who was driving along the edge of the lake on her way home. Out of the corner of her eye, she spotted something moving through the water, kinda brown and sludgy. It kept surfacing and then descending back under the water, and as she kept driving, she kept seeing it happen. She claims to have almost driven right off the road, but thankfully she didn't. Ronald McIntosh, a lifelong Loch Ness resident, claims to have seen the creature pull off a wicked jump. He was in the backseat of his family's car on the way to town when he saw something that made him yell, "Stop the car." They all looked towards the lake and saw something as big as a bus fly out of the water and then come crashing down with a splash. Even years later, they haven't come up with a solid explanation as to what it might have been, other than Nessie. And finally at number 1, we've got Steve Chalice. Now you know I've got to include at least one super recent sighting on this list just to keep everyone on their toes. This happened in 2020. Steve Chalice was taking pictures while on vacation and seemed to have picked up evidence of a massive creature moving through the water at Loch Ness. You can see ripples and waves and possibly the outline of a huge beast. The internet was abuzz with all sorts of crazy theories, from somebody pulling off a wicked hoax to the actual monster being around. However, Chalice himself doesn't seem too convinced that he actually snapped a pic of the monster, so who knows? We live in a mysterious world, why not add some additional mystery?